Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about the latest with the Bears OTAs. We're going to be talking about what awful baseball the Cubs and the Sox have been playing, and maybe throw out a few more things. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is over for them, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey for that favorite father of yours for Father's Day coming up, and tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing in this wonderful Chicago weather we've been experiencing?
You know, I've been doing really, really well because I have done a lot of fun things this weekend, both indoors and outdoors, and I've really cut down my time on watching baseball in this city in particular. So that made things even better because I think giving a lot of attention to the current state of things in baseball would make me a lot less happy and a lot less relaxed. So not watching that and enjoying my weekend with people and myself as well, really can't complain with that. I mean, you and I were talking before this show just how great it was weather-wise today, and it's going to get hot this week, but, you know, for the weekend, it turned out pretty nice. And even on the days like Saturday, when they said that there was chance of rain, we really didn't get much rain at all. So some friends and I were able to go out Saturday, enjoy the Cantini Park in Wheaton, and just enjoy some really solid weather. And it's good for the soul, man. I'll tell you, when there's really nice weather outside, you just feel better, even when your teams are yucking it up.
It's true. And since we talked last, for my birthday, my wife and daughter took me to a Wolves game, and they won. That game we went to, and they're up, I believe, 3-2 in the semifinals. So one more win, and the Wolves will be in the Calder Cup finals.
And if they're there, my dad and I will be at one of those games.
Yeah, I think we will too. And I'm going to see the Cubs tomorrow.
So is my dad and brother.
For reasons. Now, my buddy bought season tickets. Perfect timing, right? First time since they get older.
Oh Lord.
And his goal was, we'll flip tickets, and then basically the games we go to will be kind of free. And I don't think it's working out as well as they'd hoped.
No.
They're not good. But you know what? A friend that I've had since I was like 19 years old, and I'm 45. So we've been friends a long time. So it's nice to just get out to the ballpark and hang out with an old friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because my dad and I, we did the 8-pack ticket thing. So we had our first game on Wednesday, the 1st. They won that game on the walk-off. Tomorrow was game 2 of that pack, but my brother's going to go with my dad this time because it's another night game, and it's a night I have to commute to the office, and I just don't want to be up that late. So that worked out nicely, but we'll have some more games to go to. And I'm hoping by mid to end of season, when we have our final games, the team will at least have more of the prospects up, so there'll be more to watch. Because sure, you got Christopher Morel is fun to watch right now, and like Wilson Contreras, even though he's 30 years old, is having a good year, and Ian Happ's having a good year, and there are a few things to watch. As a whole, it's brutal. It's beyond brutal, and it's tough to watch, but like you said, going to the ballpark, going to Wrigley is always fun. So, as long as you have a nice night tomorrow night, just soak it all in and watch Yu Darvish mow down the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's roll into the game, have fun.
You have no expectations.
None whatsoever. And I mean, for me, it's not a bad trip. I mean, I literally live right off of Waveland. So it's just traveling straight west.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice for you because from here, if it's a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, it's only about 40 minutes to get there if you take the Kennedy. But on a weeknight, it's at least, I'd say, an hour 10, hour 15, just with all the traffic. Because when we went down on Wednesday the 1st, I'd say it was an hour 20 because, the Kennedy gets really backed up around the airport, and that's a good few miles. You're just kind of going on a crawl. And then you get off at Irving Park Road, and then you got to navigate your way through the side streets to park your car. So there's obviously a big difference when you go morning/early afternoon versus a night game from Elmhurst. So, that's one of the things too that I like going to night games. Like, I love the ambiance of night games, but it's just easy for me to go to day games because I could park on the streets for day games and not have to pay. Whereas at night games, you got to pay for parking.
Not if you know where to park.
Well, we used to have free parking with my brother, but he no longer lives in Wrigleyville.
We park in a free spot. You got to walk like 15 minutes, but if the weather,
no big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal because most of the time it's going to be nice weather anyway. But it's it'll be a nice time just going to the ballpark. I mean, I'm going in with the expectation that the offense will sorely struggle and that I will just eat ice cream out of a mini helmet and I'll be happy.
Oh, yeah, this vanilla ice cream with the chocolate swirl. Look at this.
Look at this. I'm eating nachos out of a hat.
Speaking of nachos, I grew up adoring Wrigley Field nachos. It's one of my favorite things about the ballpark. And then I had Wrigley Field nachos this past few weeks when I went on the 1st. Boy, oh boy, it's not the same. It is not the same, man. The nachos are like cardboard. The cheese doesn't taste nearly as good. They don't have peppers on them. Maybe they're better in the lower deck concession stands, but I was in the upper grandstand getting them. And boy, oh boy, they are a far cry from where they once were. And I'm going to say this. As much as I love the Cubs in Wrigley Field, guaranteed rates food options are just light years better. Light years better.
Get some tchotchke nachos on Gallagher Way.
Oh, God. Ricketts cheese. The cheese comes in giant, like, oil drums, like a smiling Ricketts face on them.
This is a sort of tangent here. So I like barbecue sauce. I put it on a lot of things.
Hell yeah.
And my favorite barbecue sauce is Sweet Baby Ray's.
Good stuff.
And I was on Amazon and it was during the pandemic and our Mariano's was out. And I was like, I wonder if I could just order it off of Amazon. Amazon was selling it in 55-gallon drums.
Oh my God.
It was like $200. I'm like, you know what? Like, that doesn't seem like that bad of a price for 55 gallons of barbecue sauce.
Oh no.
I didn't buy it, but I was just like, man, I was like, how long will barbecue sauce stay? Like,
You couldn't go to like a convenience store?
Listen, I was being lazy and there was a pandemic and I was like,
okay, I'll give you the pandemic part.
So
I'll give you that.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm like, this is tempting, but I know I'll have to explain this to my wife of why there's a giant truck on our street unloading a 55-gallon drum. She's like, what's in the drum? Barbecue sauce. And just to watch the look of anger on her face.
She's going to be like sitting on the couch watching TV, and then she's going to hear like coming from the garage. She's going to go to the garage, open it up, and it's going to be you just pathetically shoveling this barbecue sauce in your mouth. It's like the door opens and the light shines on you. Just the giant thing of barbecue sauce.
The drum is in the garage, and there's like a garden hose that goes from it to the kitchen through the window, like a cut hole in the screen of the window. And I have a spigot on there, and I just turn it, and barbecue starts flowing.
Like a sprinkler.
There's one of those wacky sprinklers on. I run out there with like a veggie dog, and I'm squirting barbecues. I got French fries, and I'm running out there. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, getting some barbecue sauce. Duh.
Got to put it on my new fry here.
Oh man. It would have been worth the $200, I think, to just post that photo on Instagram and be like, yeah, here's my 55-gallon drum of barbecue sauce. Who's ready to barbecue?
Yeah, man. I mean, when the weather gets good, if you have a lot of guests over, you want to barbecue anything you want there. Yeah. I mean, you won't have to worry about running out of sauce. That's for sure. If you ever been to the patio before?
Yes.
I love their barbecue sauce. And every time I go, which is quite often, I always take a few of those plastic cups with the barbecue sauce so I could put on stuff later. Always have those stashed away.
I had the same thing with my favorite Mexican restaurant. It's if I get the hot sauce, they'll put it in like the little cups if you get it to go. Ooh. And we'll keep the hot sauce in the fridge and put it on stuff.
Yeah.
And we went there today for dinner.
Nice.
My daughter does not like anything spicy. She's not at that age where spicy is good yet. And she's like, she saw my wife and I eating the spicy hot sauce, and she's like, I'm going to try it. And she literally dabbed a quesadilla like into the tiniest dot of the hot sauce. And she started crying and holding her mouth big. My little mouth is on fire.
Now, was it hot sauce or like hot salsa?
It's hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Okay. Because I love when I was at a cantina with a friend yesterday. We were sitting outside, and it was one of those places, those great Mexican restaurants that give you the complimentary chips and the salsa. And it was a really good spicy salsa. Like, it was the perfect amount of spice. There was the spice, but it wasn't overwhelming. And it was kind of that salsa where it was thinner, but it wasn't just like pure water. It had a little bit of substance to it, but it wasn't like just chunked tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
That's always good.
You got to have a little chunk in there to, scoop onto the chip.
I agree, but I don't like saying that. Like, you need chunk in there. Just gross.
And make sure it's very moist.
Oh, stop. Oh, what is it? Moist or chunky salsa? I'm sorry to anyone who's listening who might be grossed out by that. Yeah. No, wait. What am I saying? I'm sorry if you're grossed out. We don't make jokes about Sean on puking stilts going on Virginia McCaskey's lawn, going blah, blah, all over the place. But no, it's too far to use the word chunky.
I just using the words that my wife hates hearing. If you ever say the word kumquat, she might barf on sight.
Kumquat, really?
Yeah, moist kumquat. What's the other one? There's another one that just gags her. Like, she gets like, bleh. And once we were somewhere, and there was a porta potty that had that word on there, and I was like, look. And she's like, it's already a gross word, and being on the side of a porta potty, she's like, just makes it worse.
Makes it 10 times worse. Yeah, that man, what could that have been? Like sewage? I don't know.
No, it's a word that, like, it shouldn't be that bad. It's just, she's like, it's not the meaning of the word, it's the sound of the word.
Sure. Like, there was a guy named Algothorpe. Like, that's a really just like weird, gross name. Algothorpe.
yeah, and I'm just trying, like, it's just like, the word sounds gross to her. I can't think of it offhand because I don't. I will remember by next episode. We can laugh about it.
Well,
It's one of those like innocuous words, but like it just grosses her out to hear it.
yeah, for sure. Well, I know a word that will gross Southsiders out, and that's Tony La Russa.
What? All right. So Tony La Russa is a dipshit. Like there may have been a time where that man was a great baseball manager, and the number of wins he's had in his career and the World Series would say that's true. But there's a time when whatever skill that you have dissipates and deteriorates, and he is at that point now. We keep going to all these gaffes that he has, and like this week he just had a total like what the fuck moment.
He had multiple of them.
And I was listening to I think it was the Bears CHGO podcast, and they were talking about it, and I think it was Hogue was saying, oh well, those kind of things when they work out, you're like, oh, that's great, but then when they don't, you smash the person. And okay, that's sort of fair, but there has to be like a reasonable expectation of success when that happens. It's not like you're gonna take out Mike Trout with the bases loaded, down by 3 in Game 7 of the World Series and put in a fan. Like, maybe Mike Trout would have made the out and the fan's gonna get a hit. Like, maybe, but that's a low odds. The better odds is obviously leaving a Mike Trout in. In this case, having a guy with 2 strikes on him, and less people on base, your odds of giving up 3 runs are much lower when there's 1 guy on base and the guy at plate is 2 strikes, and you walk him intentionally, and you give up the 3-run homer. Now, are you expecting Max Muncy to hit a home run? Probably not. But when you've got 1 guy on base and you've got a guy down on 2 strikes, go after him. Like, you don't intentionally walk a guy after you have him nearly out.
Well, here, what gets me about that whole thing is that it wasn't 3-2. It wasn't 2 guys on, like you said. It was 1-2 with a man at first. He went over to second on the wild pitch. Does that change things? Yeah, because a hit then scores a run. I get that. You have to change your approach, but you're ahead 1-2. Then you can, what? Then what you say is, hey, don't make him beat you. Just go up there, try to pitch around him, try to make himself out, so to speak, make him chase a bad pitch, get weak contact, strike out, expand the zone, make him get out. And if he doesn't, then you walk him. Unintentionally, like an intentional walk. I'm not saying you just have to throw outside, but you could go up there and, just you nibble the corners, you throw some breaking balls, you go the fastball away, just try to make him expand the zone and get himself out. Yeah, I mean, that's what you try to do. Expand. And if you walk him.
Yeah, that I'm perfectly fine with that, because you're putting the pressure on the hitter. And if you throw it close enough to where, hey, maybe you get a gift strike on one that's outside or one that's high or low or something, then awesome. Then he's out and you won that battle. Otherwise, you've got 3 pitches to dance around and get him to bite at something. And even if it's something outside the zone and he hits it, then, he's less likely to barrel it.
Right. Exactly. You either go for the soft contact or the swing and miss. And, if he would have walked him, he throws 3 more balls and he walked him. Then, you walk him, you go after the next guy. But when you intentionally walk him when you're ahead 1-2, not only do you risk just not, you risk putting more on, obviously. But in addition to that, what did Max Muncy do after he hit the home run?
He was making fun of La Russa. Like, what?
He took it personally.
Yeah.
So when you see that someone is being intentionally walked in front of you, that's an insult to you. You think they're going to take that? No, they're going to go up there and do their darndest to make it hurt. And he made it hurt in the worst possible way.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And the fact that Tony La Russa is doubling down on why it was the right call, like I've never seen that before.
Oh, I mean, that was so Tony La Russa. That was so him. Oh, let me ask you a question. Do you know what his hits were with 2 strikes? I think everybody in this room would have agreed that was the right call. No, Tony, not a single person agreed with you. Is that really a question? Come on, man. Yes, Tony, that's a question. It's a question that everybody and their mother is asking. I mean, have you seen one expert or like even semi-big personality that covers the White Sox or baseball say, yeah, that was a good job by Tony La Russa? Did you see anybody agree with him? I didn't.
No. The best I've heard is, well, if it works out, then he looks smart. Like,
it doesn't make you look smart. It looks like you got away with it. I mean,
yeah.
Did you hear what Jason Benetti and Steve Stone were saying when it happened? Benetti was like, on 1-2, they were confused. The opposing broadcast was confused. Everyone was confused. Everyone would have said, wow, Tony's lucky to get out of that because that was stupid. Nobody would have saying, oh, it worked out. That's genius. Nobody would have been saying that.
And, it's one thing if your team is operating great, you're winning games, the offense is clicking, pitching's great, defense is good, and you gambled on this. You took a chance and you lost out on it, and you're like, yep, you know what? On hindsight, that was probably stupid. I was taking a big swing on this, and I probably shouldn't have. But you know what? We're playing great. It's not costing us. And you haven't had other incidents like this. Much different than where you're at, where this is a team that is struggling mightily, and you've had how many gaffes in the 2 years you've been the manager?
Well, Sean, another thing too is not only did that intentional walk happen in that game, that was pretty much right after you saw Tony La Russa let Dylan Cease go way too long, and they lost him the lead. Oh, well, it was his inning. He didn't have anybody warmed up. Oh, well, it wasn't the time or the inning. What do you mean? Tony La Russa is going out there trying to get him the win. Like, dude, that doesn't mean anything. What means something is getting your team the win. Pitcher wins don't mean crap anymore. He's still stuck in that mindset. And yet he's leaving Dylan Cease out there to get rocked in the 5th inning when everything went south, and he was throwing how many pitches? Well, I mean, he threw like an albatross amount of pitches in that inning. I didn't see it live, but I read about it. I saw the stat. It's like, holy cow. And he didn't have anybody warming up because it was, quote, his inning. That's old school manager talk right there.
Yeah. I mean, just Tony being Tony. And then before that, the game before that is you're playing the Dodgers, and you have Lori Garcia batting leadoff.
And did you hear the Dodgers broadcast?
No.
They were perplexed by it too.
I mean, he's one of the worst hitters in baseball this year. And the just the absolute love for him is mind-boggling. I mean, and was this another, well, if it works out, it's great. No, he proved why he shouldn't be the leadoff.
Over and over and over again.
You put him at leadoff, and he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Johnny Cueto didn't have a bad game. You lost 4-1 to the Dodgers. You didn't give him any run support. And, if you're going to bat easy out as your leadoff hitter, you're setting the stage for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then, another thing you can look at is yesterday's game when they had the 5-0 lead and the 7-4 lead and they lost it. And his bullpen selection. It's like he was playing for the lead to bring in his top guys when you needed to win the game right then and there. I don't get it, man. And then he'll say, oh, well, today, Hendricks wasn't available. Why not? Why not?
It's just, I feel, I can't imagine what White Sox fans are going through dealing with Tony La Russa and just the nonsense. This is a division that they should be running away with, and they can't get out of their own way. And I don't know to what level that Rick Hahn's hands are tied, but he's got to be super frustrated.
Did you see how the game ended today?
No, I didn't. They lost in 12, right?
Yeah, 8-6. So here's what happened. It was man on second. It was Luis Robert. There was one down. High fly ball to the warning track. Out number 2. Robert tags and goes to third. The throw goes to third. Robert slides in, comes off the bag. Duran tags him. He's out. Third out. Game's over. He wasn't even the tying run. And he tried to tag up, and he ended up getting thrown out at third. It's just, how many mistakes can you make on a ball field?
This team has bad fundamentals. They're a bad fielding team. They're a bad base running team. The offense is sputtering, and their manager just makes gaffe after gaffe. I mean, the precedence has been set this year. Is Girardi fired, Madden fired. Is if you decide you're firing Tony La Russa, there will literally be no media outlets that question you. None. I mean, you've seen a few like, well, was it Girardi's fault? Or, did Joe Madden had this team as one of the best in baseball for a while. Like, you at least saw some people, semi sticking up for those guys that got fired. You won't find anyone defending Tony La Russa if he got fired.
No, the people from the organization, from what I hear that you hear like on the news and the radio, people within the organization are perplexed by this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. And the thing is, Tony La Russa is arguably the second most powerful person in that organization under Jerry.
Yeah. I mean,
Rick Hahn won't have the go ahead to fire him.
No. And I don't even think he has the authority to DFA Leury Garcia.
No, because he's Tony's guy.
Yeah.
If Rick Hahn tried to DFA Leury Garcia, you would have Tony La Russa coming in with like laser eyes shooting at Rick Hahn.
I think the Gavin Sheets DFA is the closest he can get to taking a jab at Tony La Russa, because he's throwing off Tony's left, right at bats.
Right.
And
yeah.
Immediately once Gavin Sheets got optioned down, is Tony's like, what am I going to do for a left-handed bat? Like,
oh, I know. Let's call up my old good buddy Rafael for a call. I won a World Series with him.
but I think that was the best that Rick Hahn is able to do is give him a slight jab, and not saying that Gavin Sheets is great. I mean, he's struggling this year too, but it's for making it harder for him to do his left, right, stupid old timey manager move.
And we're obviously giving a lot of criticism towards Tony La Russa, which is obviously deserved. But at the same time, too, you also got to look at the play itself. The players also have to play better, and a lot of these guys are just not. I mean, Luis Robert made a really bad gaffe today, but overall, he's producing fine. You got great stuff from Andrew Vaughn. When Tim Anderson comes back, he's going to be your best player. But
I mean, you can't blame Tony La Russa for everything, but he really hobbles you at the beginning with his lineup constructions.
Of course.
And I mean, baseball is a finicky game, and it's a game of inches. And if you're already hobbling a struggling offense by putting your worst players in prime spots to get the most at bats,
that's on the manager.
Of course, everybody should be batting better, but like it's if your manager is hobbling you, it makes it that much tougher to overcome. And they're not playing well enough to overcome a lot of the mistakes that Tony La Russa is making.
And on top of that, more injuries. I mean, Yasmani Grandal is now injured, and Michael Kopech, he left today's game in the first inning.
And you put a reset on the timeline for Eloy Jimenez.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what that means, but he's at least
very vague.
Yeah, he's at least a couple weeks away.
Should get Lance Lynn back soon, but
yeah, I'm surprised he's not back yet.
He might be for this next trip.
And then you've got your second base dilemma that we've been screaming about since the December, like fix second base, get a second baseman. And we were told, oh, Rick Hahn's like, we got it under control. We've got second base covered. And I was told that Harrison was a good pickup and would work well. And this second base is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
I mean, at this point, and listen, I realize Yoan Moncada is stinking up the joint this year, but why don't you move Jake Berger to third and give him more at-bats and then move Yoan Moncada to second?
Berger's been their run producer lately.
Yeah, is give him the more at-bats, and I'm not saying he's the answer for everything, but he's the hot hand, and I would much rather have Yoan Moncada getting the at-bats at second base than Larry Garcia or Harrison. Like, at least he could hit the ball out of the park. All three guys are stinking it up, but I would move Moncada to second, move Berger.
I'd put Yoan Moncada on the IL or something, or send him down.
Somebody's got to play second base.
Yolbert Sanchez, call him up. Did you know how bad Yoan Moncada is right now?
He's bad.
Do you know what his WRC plus on the season is right now?
I don't, but his OPS is probably like, I'm guessing his OPS is probably like 398, 401-ish.
His WRC plus is 6. If for any of you SpongeBob fans out there, if you know this reference, 6. Woo! And how many do I need to pass? 6. Ooh. 600. You need 600 to pass. You got 6. You want to know what's even worse? If you exclude his at-bats against the New York Yankees, his WRC plus is -30 in 70 plate appearances, not against the Yankees.
I mean, at least Larry Garcia's is 32.
Yeah. Yoan Moncada is supposed to be a superstar. Can we legit talk about concerns about this guy?
He once he got COVID, just became an abysmal baseball player.
I mean, last year he put up some solid numbers, but they felt kind of empty, you know? The OBP was really good, but you didn't have the power. Like, he's supposed to be a power hitter. Outside of 2019, you never really got that from him. I mean, at this point, you would just want on base and hitting rather than power at this point. You're not getting anything right now. Man, like, it's bad with him. I mean, and this, we're not talking about a Lurie Garcia or a Josh Harrison type. We're talking about one of the corner pieces of your core.
Josh Harrison, Lurie Garcia, and Yoan Moncada all have negative WAR.
Yeah. Ugh. I mean, Josh Harrison felt like that old-fashioned, hey, here's a veteran that was good a few years ago. Let's bring him to solve our problems. Though I'm going to say this. In terms of old, past their prime guys, one of the few bright spots right now on the Sox, Johnny Cueto has actually been pitching pretty decently for who he is.
Yeah, I think that was a solid pickup, to be honest with you. Is he the Johnny Cueto of several years ago? Obviously no, but he has been pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes out there and eats innings and he goes out there and he gets ground balls and soft contact and, you know, he helps you in that form, that's really all you can ask from him. And he's done a lot better than I thought, because when I saw that signing, I'm like, oh boy, that feels like James Shields 2.0, but he's actually doing a pretty respectable job. I gotta give him that.
But I want to put how bad some of these batters for the White Sox have been in perspective, because the F-WAR of Yoan Moncada, Lurie Garcia, Josh Harrison range from a -0.7 to a -0.3. And all three of those players are worse than Jason Hayward, who is an F-WAR of -0.1. So if you're a Cubs fan and you're like, all right, I kind of want to put this into perspective, imagine having three players worse than Jason Hayward regularly getting at-bats, prime at-bats.
Yeah. This is where I think you could reach into your farm system and find better guys. And I'm not saying you're finding all-stars or superstars, but you can do better than old washed up Josh Harrison.
I'm trying to look at some Yoan Moncada. What the hell happened? I mean, he went from last year a walk rate of 13.6, the year before 12.1. Now it's down to 4.2.
Yeah, he could get on base.
No, I mean, his walk rate just dropped significantly. He used to walk a lot.
Well, yeah, that's
Now
what I'm
he's
saying.
not.
He used to,
Yeah.
not anymore.
BABIP dropped last year from 350 to this year 164. WRC plus last year 122, this year 7. Like, good grief. Good grief. This K rate is 28.4.
It's either a strikeout or a ground ball right into the shift.
His OPS is 390, according to Fangraphs.
What's his OPS? 390.
390.
This is OPS.
That is his OPS. Last year it was 787. This year it is 390 with a 211 slugging. He's barely at the Mendoza line with his slugging average.
Yikes.
His WRC plus 7 on Fangraphs.
I mean, he's got to be hurt or something, right? He can't be this bad.
This is not good.
Yeesh.
His line drive percent in his career, it's always been in the mid 20s. It is less than 10%.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those grounders into the shift, that explains it.
Let's see. His balls hit to the opposite field, dropped fairly significant. His hard hit rate is half of what it was last year. Oof. Oof, oof, oof.
Let's see. I'm just looking at some of the baseball savant stuff. He's had one multi-hit game. Just one. It's rough, man. It is rough. He is supposed to be one of your guys. I wouldn't even ask him to be like superstar at this point. If he's just good at this point. I mean, last year when he slashed 263, 375, 412, if you would have gotten that similar production this year, I think you would have been happy. I mean, at this point, but it's not even close to that now. When your OBP is 177, it's just shocking. It really is just shocking. Like, there's got to be something wrong. That's why I think you got to put him on the IL. You got to give him some time to work through some things even. Hell, I don't know if he's got options, but if he's got options, maybe send him down. You got to do something. You can't keep up with this.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, you're really struggling on offense. Nope, nothing's working. The injuries are there. You've got a ding dong for a manager.
Oh no, is he taking over the ding dong mantle?
He might.
Oh, what are you doing here? Hey, what are you doing on my ding dong mantle? I will use my purple crayon to write you a very stern but polite letter.
Get off my ding dong lawn.
The battle of ding dongs.
And then yesterday, you're up 5-0 with your ace on the mound. You got to feel comfortable with winning that game, and you don't.
Yeah, Lucas Giolito, his last few outings have just been very subpar. It's, he still gets a lot of strikeouts, and the overall numbers on the season are still pretty dang good. It's just the last few starts have been very Chris Archer-like. Though, this is worth pointing out, his ERA is 3.88. Okay, that's not bad. His FIP is 4.43. His WHIP is 1.44. His strikeouts per nine are still good, 11.8. I mean, if the season were to end today and he had 30 starts under his belt, that would be the second highest his K per nine has been in his career. But the FIP and the WHIP are pretty high. I mean, you look at the last few years. His WHIP last year was 1.1. His WHIP the year before was 1.04. The WHIP before the year before was 1.1. This year it's 1.44, and his walk rate is much higher than it was last year.
Yeah, and like a 1.44 WHIP is not the worst thing in the world, but
a pitcher that caliber, you don't want.
Yeah, a pitcher, a front end pitcher like that should be should be significantly lower. And
right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not writing this team off because they've got the talent to go on a run. But they just can't keep going the way they are.
No, exactly.
There's got some sort of fire needs to be lit under their ass. Guys need to get healthy, and you need a couple of guys to just catch on fire at the plate. And you've got guys that can. Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez when he comes back.
Tim Anderson when he comes
when
back. I mean, that could be a spark plug right there.
Yeah. I mean, you've got guys, is somebody's got to step up and start hitting the baseball.
Right. Because, there's still plenty of time left. There's still plenty of time in the season. And the second half, like your remaining schedule is pretty easy. You got most of the hard series out of the way. You're done with the AL East. You still have to play the Astros, but you're done with a lot of these hard games. You control your own destiny because a lot of your remaining games are against the division. And I still think at the end of the day, the White Sox on paper are far and away the better team in this awful division because the Tigers aren't good. The Royals aren't good. The Twins are, I don't think they're bad, but I just don't think they're going to sustain this kind of winning. I just don't think they have the pitching. Cleveland, they're not, I wouldn't count them as a legit contender, but they might not be quite as bad as you think. But at the end of the day, I would still put my money on the White Sox winning this, but it's mid-June and you got to get serious. I mean, if this continues another month, then you are looking at something that could end up really flopping bad. And you know what? Lance Lynn could be a huge booster. Tim Anderson is going to be a massive booster. You can win a few games and get right back in this, but you got to get serious. And I won't fully count the Sox team out until like August. If they're in the same spot in August, then yeah, I think we're going to write them off. And I know a lot of Sox fans are frustrated. I mean, if I were a Sox fan, I'd be the way too, that they don't really want to look at that right now. They want to look at the problems at hand. And yeah, you have to. But I'm still not completely writing this off, but it's just got to get better. It really does.
No, but every day that where it's like, oh, hey, this team could right the ship, let's not push the panic button yet. Every day that we go and we keep saying that, it sounds more hollow every day.
That does.
And we're at a point where, sure, what are we, like a third of the way through the season ish? In a couple weeks, we're going to be like, oh, hey, now we're starting to talk about trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not there, does that mean we still write you off? No, we've seen plenty of teams at the second half of the season just catch on fire and not only
the Braves, the Nationals.
It's again, you're not written off until you're mathematically eliminated. But you look at a team like the Yankees that's just absolutely firing on all cylinders, and you're like, that's who your competition is. That's the team you have to beat to go to the World Series.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're lucky you're not in the AL East. Let's just say that. Thank goodness you were not in the AL East.
Yeah. And I mean, using that as a segue, is the Yankees just absolutely tuned up the Cubs. Yeah. I mean, I know they're the better team, but did they really have to do that to us?
It's just sad. It's just sad that we're less than 10 years away, removed from that World Series, and we have to be fighting with the worst teams in baseball. It's just sad at this point. I'm past being mad and frustrated like I was in previous weeks. This is just flat sad. I mean, it was another example of men versus boys. We saw the same thing in the Dodgers series. We saw it here in the Bronx. The Cubs are now 0-12 in history in the Bronx. They're now well below 500. They're double digits below 500. All I can do is continue to tell people to look at the farm system, because there are some really good things happening down there, even with your number one prospect having that surgery, even with another guy like Ed Howard needing surgery. If you need some cheering up, go look at what Kevin Alcantara is doing and what Owen Casey's doing, what Pete Crow Armstrong, James Triantos, DJ Hurst, Caleb Killian, Yordanic Parengo, a lot of those guys. Look at what they're doing, because right now it's just a factory of sadness on the north side. And I've said it once and I've said it again. It was never going to be a good season. We didn't have any expectations. We should not be flirting with 100 losses after the Theo regime. We shouldn't be.
I want to
say
be
this bad.
So I recognize that the Cubs have had minimal games this week, but since Higgins hit that 8th inning double on Sunday versus St. Louis, the Cubs are 1-51 with runners in scoring position.
Mind-boggling. I mean, how did the worst teams over the past 40 years didn't go through stretches like that?
After some fool's gold with Matt Swarmer, he has some sort of epic breakdown and gives up 6 home runs.
That was just what you saw. I watched the replays of that. Stanton hit like the hardest hit ball in God knows how long. I mean, that was just literally throwing batting practice.
Wade Miley can't stay healthy,
which sucks because he's actually been pretty good when he does pitch.
He's been like, if he could stay healthy, the way he's been pitching, you could flip him at the trade deadline for something.
Valuable trade chip. That's what frustrates me about it.
And you give up 2 home runs to 400-year-old Matt Carpenter today.
Yeah, that's if you needed a low point, losing 18-4 and having Matt Carpenter look like 2014 Matt Carpenter against you, that's pretty much as low as it gets.
Have you seen Matt Carpenter's stat line this year?
Do I want to see it?
He's batting .333. His OPS is 1,600.
You know what, though? I'm glad he's doing it with the Yankees and not the Cardinals.
Oh, I know. But listen, Clint Frazier, did he deserve to be DFA'd? Probably. But why he's 27 years old? Why isn't he being given the opportunity that Jason Hayward is being given?
Yeah, I think that's what pisses fans off the most. And look, I think this move in the long run isn't going to have many consequences, but it would have been really nice if we could have seen Frazier get a bit more of a chance.
Yeah. I'm 95+% sure he's not the answer for anything. But
there's still that tiny chance.
I'm 100% convinced that Jason Hayward is not going to live up to the contract or the guy that we hoped he would be. And sure, you take out that World Series that he helped win, but other than that, he hasn't been great and he's really terrible right now. So why not give the guy with a 5% chance of having some success over the guy that has 0% chance? And you've got Suzuki that still hurt and
going to be hurt a little while longer.
Yeah. And, Justin Steele has the positive, I guess, with Justin Steele is nobody's really putting the barrel of the bat on the ball, but he just doesn't have the command.
Right. I mean, the FIP is pretty low. It's like you said, the command that struggled.
Yeah, people aren't really hitting the ball hard off of him. It's if he could figure out that command issue, we might have something there. And John Lester seems to be taking a shine to him and offering some advice. I don't know how that's going to play out. But
I still like his stuff. I still like Justin Steele's stuff. Not writing him off as a pitcher because I think he's still a good bullpen swing guy, but I think it's safe to say that the Keegan Thompson regression monster has finally bitten.
Yeah, Keegan Thompson. You know, we all knew that the regression monster would come. I just didn't think it would kick him so hard at the ding ding. Like
you four. Kicking the ding ding. This is a sports podcast that used the word kicking the ding ding.
I don't even know how else to describe it, because it's like Keegan Thompson woke up one day and was like, I don't know what to do with a baseball. Like, what's a baseball?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to get your crap kicked in by the best offensive team in the majors. I mean, the Yankees are just relentless. I mean, even a mediocre team is probably losing that series, but
the Orioles kicked the shit out of them.
Orioles, the team that hits the least home runs in the majors, went full launch pad against him.
Yeah, they went and launch pad McQuack on him.
Yeah, I mean, it was boom, boom, one after another, after another, after another. And they weren't cheapies either.
No, they were not. And that's a last place team. I mean, granted, they're last place in the Yankees division. That, you know, Boston is not that bad, and they're fourth. But Toronto is a really damn good team, and they're 8.5 games behind the Yankees.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. We're not much better than Baltimore, are we? We're really not.
26. They actually have a better record than us.
Exactly. I mean, you know, what's been nice is that, you know, the Morel streak was finally broken, but that was really fun. And we get a chance to see him continue to play. And I've been really impressed with Ian Happ. He's looked really, really good so far. I mean, he was a double short of the cycle today. So, I mean, he's been hitting really, really well. And I take that as, you know, you got two options there. Maybe you extend him and he's part of your future, or maybe you kick the tires, or you try both. Yeah, see what people are giving you.
Yeah, I was going to say is, what would it take you to trade Ian Happ?
See, Ian Happ is the kind of guy where I wouldn't just trade him for anything. Like, you have to have a really nice package put together in order to trade him, because I think he's the kind of guy that you can lock up on a really club-friendly deal. Whereas with Wilson Contreras, he's not going to make crazy money, but he's obviously going to be worth more the way he keeps going. You know, he's going to command some money. With Ian Happ, you can extend him to a very club-friendly deal if you want to. So you can either take the chance and shop him, and if you don't like what you get, all right, let's extend him. And you know what? Say you extend him and he's playing just meh, then you're probably not going to be paying him a whole ton.
You know what's funny is Ian Happ is a trade deadline guy that I think could be impactful to a contending team, but he's the kind of guy that nobody goes after, really. They go after, you know, like big name guys, and I think he's the kind of guy that's would provide a return. But you know, I would not, I'm for trading everybody, but for the right price. Like a guy like Wade Miley, I would flip him for whatever you can get for him, because that's what his value is to you. I would flip a Hendricks for whatever you can get for him, because I don't see his long-term value. But Ian Happ, you would have to give me something good, because I see the potential value in the future on this team with him. Like you said, he's not going to command crazy money, and he's still well within his prime. Every year he's getting better. And so you can use him as a core piece.
Yeah, it's not like he's 31,
What is he, 27?
Yeah, he's 27.
So I see the value for him on the Cubs. He wants to stay a Cub. So you would have to, if you offered a Pete Crow Armstrong type player for him, obviously you have to say, yeah, I'll take that. But if you're not giving me something good, I'm not low, taking a low ball offer for him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's see. I just don't know what else to say about the Cubs. Honestly, yesterday they got blown out 8-0 against the Yankees. And what was today? 18-4.
Yeah, it was a football score.
And Friday was probably the most frustrating game of the series.
Yeah, you went 0 for 18 with runners in scoring position. You could have easily won that game. The pitching put on a hell of a performance, and it went to waste.
Yeah, you could have stole one from the Yankees. You should have stole one from the Yankees, and you didn't. And they made you suffer for it.
Yep. Yeah, now we got to play 4 against the Padres.
Yeah. That's not going to be pretty.
No. Though we did take 2 or 3 from them. But yeah.
All right. Should we, there's one quick thing with basketball I want to mention.
Mm-hmm.
There's the rumors about the Bulls packaging Vooch and Patrick Williams for Rudy Gobert. And I don't know what to think about that. Like, would a Rudy Gobert be nice to have? Yes. But do I want to take on that contract of his? No. It's a big contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know what we have with Patrick Williams. Like, trading him gives me FOMO that he's going to just
excel where he goes.
Yes. And we're like, we gave up on him too soon.
Mm-hmm. I hear that.
He's got the talent and the size. I just don't know if he has the heart to be that guy. I'm hoping they can figure that out and get that out of him. But like a Rudy Gobert type player would be huge on this team because you have Caruso and Ball and Gobert. Suddenly now you're a hell of a defensive ball club. You're really locking yourself up financially.
Yeah, there's a lot of risks tied to it, and you can look at the situation in 2 ways. It's like, one, you're risking not only bringing on a lot of contract capital onto your books, you're also potentially giving away high-end talent. But as you said, a Rudy Gobert would not be a bad player on this team by any means. It's better than the Anthony Davis trade rumors, though. I don't really want much to do with that. You're hearing about some of the stuff that's been going on. He hasn't shot a basketball in how long, and I wouldn't want to mess with that.
Yeah. So Rudy Gobert this coming season, so he has got 1, 2, 3, 4 more years on his contract. Next year is 38.2 million. The year after is 41 million. The year after that is 43.8 million. The year after that is $46.65 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. And for him being, let's see, when the season starts, he'll be 30. So 30, 31, 32, 33. I have not heard the other rumors you were mentioning.
Well, they're not really solidified rumors. It's just people talking. Oh, they did go after AD, all that stuff. It's all just like speculation and like hypothetical. It's nothing like concrete. I didn't want to scare you like that.
Yeah, I was like, do not want that.
Yeah, that's the no. Yeah, did not mean to give you a heart attack there.
Yeah. Anthony Davis hasn't shot a basketball since probably April 5th. Oof. Not good. Not good.
Nope.
So let's wrap this up with a little Bears talk here. So the Bears this week got docked a practice day because there was too much contact in an OTA. I don't look at it as a bad thing. Like, all the veterans are talking about what an intense practice that they run. And they're saying, well, we need it with all the rookies, the young guys that we have. Well, we also need to get the gear going for the veterans too, because they clearly were not doing what they needed to be done, what they had to do in previous seasons. But it seems like, as corny as it sounds, it seems like the hits principle is really sticking with these
it's
players.
When you're not supposed to be hits.
They're just, hopefully all the Bears offensive players are wearing those Mitch Trubisky outer helmet protectors.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did.
Oh my! All I could think about is dark helmet from Spaceballs.
Because good is dumb.
But the hits principle seems to be, being impactful. The intensity in practice has been great. I don't look at that as a negative. Is you're seeing they're buying into win, lose, or draw. They're buying into what Matt Eberflus is selling. So you're seeing improved intensity. Other than Justin Fields, it does not look like anybody's being handed a starting position. They're all having to earn it.
Which is good, is what you want to see. I mean, especially with this group of people, you don't have a lot of experienced veterans on here. You're having a lot of young guys try out for spots. So that's just what you got to do with this situation. And I'm glad they're not predetermining anything before you have camp and preseason.
And I said it going into the draft that, with their draft picks, there probably aren't any home runs that they can hit, but they need at least 2 solid starters and 2 more contributors from this draft. And based on all reports, it sounds like we're going to have 2 solid starters, and Velus Jones sounds like he's going to be a solid contributor. And I would not be surprised if we have a rookie on the offensive line start. So that's looking good. Justin Fields last year, when they rolled him out and he was on the move, his quarterback rating was pretty darn good. And they're already moving him around quite a bit. So that's all good stuff. And Justin Fields has taken almost every single rep in practice, which honestly is huge because last year he got very minimal snaps in OTAs and in training camp because QB1 was getting all of the snaps.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Bears are going to be great this year. I just don't understand how everybody thinks they're going to be so bad. It's like people are just piling on. Like Pro Football Focus ranked them as the worst wide receiver core in the NFL.
I mean, I kind of see why people would see it that way, but I don't think they're going to be the absolute worst.
Listen, Alan Lazard is holding out on the Packers. If you take Alan Lazard out of the equation, the Packers wide receiver core is the corpse of Randall Cobb, the corpse of Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson, a draft pick. That's their top three receivers. When you take out Alan Lazard, that's not very good. The Lions top three wide receivers are Amon St. Brown, DJ Shark, who combined last year did not have as many receiving yards as Darnell Mooney, and Williams, the kid that they drafted, who is hurt right now. So who knows when he'll be back. Jacksonville Jaguars have their top three wide receivers are Christian Kirk, who they way overpaid in the wide receiver market for, Marvin Jones and Zay Jones. Exactly 0 receivers that had 1,000 yards. So, I'm not saying that the Bears wide receiver core should be ranked at the top. I just think there's a lot of disrespect for Darnell Mooney.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think that a lot of people recognize him as good as he could potentially be just with the offenses he's had to play in his career so far. So, this could be the opportunity for him to kind of make more of a name for himself if things go well.
I mean, he's 1,000-yard receiver. Like, you can't shit on that. He was a top 20 receiver last year. None of those three teams I named have a top 20 receiver. None. 0 combined. So, like, I just don't understand how you rank those. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And again, I'm not saying that the Bears should have been at the top, but to make them last, that's sus.
Also, ever since you mentioned Dark Helmet, all I can picture now is them on the practice field. Keep firing, assholes.
The other thing that's been, bandied around on Bears Twitter is the quote unquote demotion of Tevin Jenkins. He didn't get demoted. They're sending a message. How would you get demoted when the offensive line is still in shorts? You can't, until they're in pads playing during training camp, nobody's winning or losing a job on the offensive line. They're sending him a message, just like they sent Jalen Johnson a message that you need to earn this spot. This is not being given to you.
We should be happy about this. We should be happy that this is their attitude, that they're not just predetermining anything, that they were letting the entire process play out.
Yeah. And nobody seems to mention that they also gave that same, lesson, quote, demotion to Larry Borum too, because going into this, Larry Borum was running with the ones on the left tackle spot. Tevin Jenkins was running with the ones at the right tackle spot. And then they went through and they had Tevin Jenkins running with the twos, and Larry Borum going from left to right. So both guys got a demotion as a message saying, hey, that there's expectations and you need to win this job, and that whoever plays the best is getting this job. We don't care about how long you've been in this league. We don't care about your draft status. Like, that's who we're going with. And if those two guys, barring injury, obviously, but if those two guys aren't starting your starting tackles, then either you're in way worse shape than you thought, or those guys just were wrong picks off the bat. I mean, the expectation is those are your two starting guys. And I think the expectation is that they're going to be your guys for, a number of years. But they need to buy into the system, and they need to earn those spots, and they need to play hard. But you're not going to demote a guy on the offensive line wearing shorts during OTAs.
Exactly.
So I just, it's a little silly to me. They're clearly just sending a message because they want the intensity. They want these guys to be hungry. They want these guys to be, to have an attitude and really go to that offensive line ready to be aggressive and be mean and be nasty and buy into this new offensive system. And it's a lot different than what the Bears had been running previously. So I fully expect both guys to be the starting tackles for the Bears in week 1 against San Francisco. And if they're not, outside of injury, then you have to be disappointed.
Yep. I think you said it best.
And I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, hey, the Bears have a disastrous right guard situation on their hands. And I don't know, the way I'm thinking about this is it a disaster or devoid of talent, or is it more of a black hole, black box? We don't know.
It's a concern. It's a mystery. I think because of that mystery, it's a concern, but I think the black hole is kind of a way you could describe it. I mean, it's a lot more unnerving when you have this kind of an issue, when you have a young quarterback that you're trying to groom into his own. So, this is going to be one of those, we'll see what happens, but it's definitely something I am a bit concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, let's see. I'm trying to see the wording that they were talked about in Kevin Fishbane's mailbag article. Here we go. They called the situation at guard, quote, scary bad. Maybe it's scary bad. I would say that, yeah, it's a much more of an unknown than anything, because who knows? One of those rookies might step in and play really well. And there's a reason that Ryan Poles is not freaking out right now. Because there are guards available, veteran guards that he could bring in, but he hasn't. We've got the cap room. There are guys available. He has not brought them in. I think he's really trying to see what these rookies can do. And if you feel that one of these rookies can step in, and based on the scheme you're running, which has less reliance on a guy, really being an island and standing tall one-on-one, it's more of a gap control. It's gives people help. If it's more of an unknown. But if they feel confident that one of these rookies can go in, then maybe we're not in as bad of shape as we're making it out to be. So I guess my terminology would be it's a scary unknown, because I guess it's like going into a lake in the dark. You don't know what's in that water or how deep it is, but it could be an awesome time with, perfectly warm water and monsters in there. It could be there's a barracuda in there biting your feet. Like I don't know until they get the pads on and we start seeing. We don't know. And I think that's probably a better term than scary bad, because it could work out perfectly fine with these rookies.
Yeah, it could. I don't know how much stock I'd put into it, but they got to prove it to show us. Can't fully judge something that hasn't fully developed yet.
Yeah, I mean, if Thomas or Jatire Carter steps into that right guard spot, then you're like, and if they do well, you've got to be feeling pretty good about yourself, because your offensive line is both offensive tackles are second year. Your right guard's a rookie on a next to nothing salary. You feel pretty good about being able to dump the Whitey coat hair contract for next year. So I think you're feeling pretty good.
Don't say that. Once that's gonna cry.
And
I just can't wait to see camp. I just want to see, like, I have no expectations for the Bears. I really don't. But when you play the game of football and you have a lot of unknowns, chances are you're going to find a few guys that are going to be those diamond in the roughs. They're going to play better than you expect. You don't even expect anything for them because you don't really know them, and they end up being something. I mean, this is a chance for the Bears to find some diamonds in the rough, whether it was through the draft or, some of those free agents that they brought in that are a bit more unknowns. And again, it's not going to necessarily be a pretty season. I'm not overly hyped about this upcoming season, but, when you can find some diamonds in the rough, you have something potential going forward. And that's really the ultimate goal of this transition year in 2022, is to help establish a culture and a scheme and an approach, and you move forward with it. And a big part of that is finding guys who could be key contributors. And you could find this, it's really more when you play in the regular season, because we see guys excel in camp in the preseason and then they earn a roster spot and it doesn't end up being much. I mean, it's the same thing with spring training, but in this particular case, you're really just trying to fill out who your role players are, because you just don't know. You don't know who's going to be the number one, number two guys at some of these positions. So it's more important than ever to see what you got.
And honestly, here's why I'm not overly frightened about the offensive line. I mean, I'm a little nervous, but let's say that Bourne and Jenkins work out fine at the tackle spots, and Cody Whitehair, is he a world beater? No, but he's far from being a terrible guard.
He's experienced, he knows.
Yeah, so you feel fine with him there. You felt comfortable enough to bring in Lucas Patrick. Here's the thing: Lucas Patrick mostly played guard for the Packers. So if you can't figure out a player that's going to adequately fill that right guard spot, you know what? There's a really good center that's still available in JC Tretter. Is bring him in on a 1-year deal and then kick Lucas Patrick over to the guard. And JC Tretter is going to come in day one and be a more than adequate center. And Lucas Patrick goes back to a position that he's played mostly with the Packers. So problem solved. But I think the hope is that one of these younger guys can step up and take the job. And, I don't see Dakota Dozier or Sam Mustipher being that guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
I mean, honestly, if both of those guys are on this roster, that would make me much more nervous than one of these rookies starting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, with the rookies, kind of the nice thing about rookies and the young talent is that you can coach them up. I mean, they're raw talent. It's really what they are, and you can coach them up and to fit your scheme right away. Whereas, with more experienced veterans who aren't exactly stars or big impact players, it might be harder for them to adjust. I mean, there's a big difference between adjusting a new scheme with like a Pro Bowl tackle than a guy who's just been kind of around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I guess the last thing Bears related I had to say was the home run derby that the Bears players had at Wrigley Field.
Awesome.
Looked like a blast. And both the Cubs and the Bears missed out on an opportunity because I think people would have really watched that on television if you would have broadcast that.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I would have eaten that shit up. And boy, have you seen Cole Kmet? Like, that guy looks like a professional ball player. Can he double dip? Can the Cubs sign him as a DH and then he goes play tight end for the Bears?
I mean, he played baseball at Notre Dame.
He did. Yes, he did. That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
Come on over.
And it's
sell
funny.
some tickets.
So I was looking at Cole Kmet's stats, and honestly, if he put up the same receiving yards that he put up last year, they're not bad receiving yards. He just needs to up those touchdowns. And honestly, I'm not looking at actual stats on the yards after catch, but just from the eyeball test, he really didn't have much yards after the catch. If he improves yards after the catch, even like a tiny bit, and you use him as a red zone target and get some touchdowns, like 5 touchdowns on that guy's resume, and the bare minimum of extra yards after the catch, I'm going to call him a success. So I don't think he's that outside the realm of considering him a solid
effective player.
Yeah. Like, not elite, but definitely a serviceable plus tight end. I mean, what do you have? 600 some receiving yards. If you can get him up to like 725 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, thumbs up. I'm happy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I look at the yards he had last year and I was kind of blown away. Like, I didn't realize he really had that many.
He had 660 receptions for 612 yards last year.
Could you imagine if he would have been able to create a bit more separation last year?
Yeah, you get him up to like 700 yards and he had 0 touchdowns. You get him like 5 touchdowns and 700 yards. I'll be happy.
Sure. I agree.
I'm looking at the 20 let's see, tight ends. If you get them up to 700 yards, only 5 tight ends had more receiving yards than that last year.
I mean, if you wouldn't have told me that, I would have had no idea. Just based on what we remember seeing last year.
Oh, wait, no, I take that back. Sorry, they didn't have that sorted. So Cole Kmet was 12th in tight end reception yards.
Even so.
So Darren Waller, Noah Fant, Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, Rob Gronkowski, Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews are the only ones that had more yards than him.
That's a good group.
So if you get him if you get him up at 700 yards, that would put him in the top 10, which is doable, definitely doable.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you get him to 5 touchdowns, that sort of would mirror him being in the top 10 to 15 in touchdowns.
I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to see solid production from him as a target. Obviously, you want to have solid blocking from him because he's a tight end, but part of developing a good offense, especially in this day and age, you got to have a tight end that can make a difference as a receiver. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Especially in the red zone.
Yeah. I mean, that's where he's going to have to be much more effective as a red zone target. But honestly, if you 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, definitely doable. And there's one more thing I wanted to ask you. So there was a player in one of the press conferences that the Bears coaching staff referenced by name when they were talking about the growth of Justin Fields. And this player in his second year had this stat line: 3,324 yards passing, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and an 87 quarterback rating.
And you said this was their first year?
The second year.
Second year. Oh, that sounds like Mitch Trubisky.
No, it was Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott. Okay.
But
I was going to say that sounded very Mitch Trubisky like 2018. So, okay.
Would you be okay if those were the numbers that Justin Fields had?
On the surface, sure, but I would like to know the rushing yards too, because I feel like that's going to be a part of his game. I mean, what did you say? 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Was that?
Yep. And 33-24 in passing yards.
I mean, obviously I'd like a little more in passing yards, but I also can't expect too much with this wide receiver core. So if it's somewhere in that ballpark, I would say, sure. I mean, I would, I guess that's fine.
I would like to see closer to what Dak had in his third year.
Agreed.
Which would be 3,885 yards, which would make, I think that would be right towards the top of a Bears passing record per season. 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 96.9 quarterback rating.
Yeah, I take that.
That, to me, I think would be the line that I would say I would consider that a success.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the last line you gave me, it's not awful, but you'd maybe want a little better than that. But the line you just read in the third year, that with what you have, I don't think you can expect much better than that. I mean, you don't have a true number one wide receiver. You don't have the best offensive line. And, this is the first year of a scheme. And, Justin Fields is adjusting from having a joke scheme the year before. So, I mean, we want better, but we also have to be realistic. So I would definitely take something like that second line.
Yeah. And honestly, if he had that season, the third season of Dak, that would arguably be the best single quarterback season in Bears history.
It would definitely be among the top. I mean, you got to remember, the Bears have existed for 100 years, and they've yet to have a 4,000-yard passer.
They haven't even had a 3,900-yard passer.
No, the closest was Jay Cutler in what?
Nope.
2014?
Nope. It was Eric Kramer, 1995.
Oh, it was Eric Kramer. Okay.
Yeah. 3,838.
Yeah.
And I just want to point it out, now that we have a 17-game season, is to hit 4,000 passing yards, you would just need like roughly 235 yards passing a game.
Only the Bears. Only the Bears. Only the Bears could never do that. Oh my God. It just,
So I
every other team's done it.
I just honestly, I think you need at least 3,700 passing yards for Justin Fields.
Agreed. Agreed.
Otherwise, yeah, and granted, the receiving core not being where we'll be next year, and the offensive line not being where we're going to be next year, like those are all going to be impactful. But the fact that they're building this offense around Justin Fields rather than, shoving Justin Fields into an offense that, he's not built for. I just think that you're going to see better results.
Well, you certainly hope.
Fingers crossed.
Crossing all of them.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. This is how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, ShyFanPat2, or go to AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down, I wanna...